Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be taking a look actually at an article here from Chris Cillizza, our favorite CNN soy boy, with his the point bullshit here. Is Donald Trump starting to make an electoral comeback? Well, before we do that though, I want to show something, because if you look here, they got New Hampshire is light blue. They got Maine like this, all this deep blue, and then they're like, because this talks about Florida now being changed to a toss-up, and Nevada. They're trying to play this situation, all right, down. They're seriously, I think, a lot more scared than they are. Now, the thing is, see, we just had our state primary here on Tuesday. Now, I wanted to do something about this the other day because I noticed something fishy. Because I was looking at the numbers, okay? And it's hard to tell what's going on when you look here, you know, for like the Democrat governor for Democratic primary. You know, you really can't tell much because you've got both candidates. It's separate. I mean, you do have a total there. Then you go into, you know, your governor and so on. Well, when I looked at this, I saw something very interesting. It just didn't sit right with me. 'Cause like subconsciously there was something interesting about it that just didn't sit right with me. So I started going through the numbers, and at first I put them into a Word document, and let me move that over here. That still didn't yield what I wanted to see. Now, these second set of numbers are what the totals that came in a few days later. Okay, so like that's why I did it a second time, because I noticed there was a discrepancy between when I went through them and put them in a spreadsheet, which I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh, that's right. So yes, I did put them in a spreadsheet and a little simple formula work here, and it spit out some interesting numbers. But if you look, all of a sudden they get a bunch of votes a few days later for the Democrat governor in the primary, but there were still some for the Republican governor. But then most of the totals stayed the same. I may have recorded the 64,000 wrong, but I believe I put that in right. But all of a sudden these were, at least they're for a Republican. I think I put it in wrong, and that's what happened. I believe it was the same. It might have been the same total as this, because I was adding up the numbers individually to make sure that their numbers were right, and I might have taken it off the calculator. But that aside, okay, if we go, this was my original spreadsheet. All right. Now, 13,000 difference. All right. Was all the way through, which it wouldn't have mattered. All right. On the note of this one right here. So it's pretty much safe. But if you look, I broke it down by the state's primary race, Democrat and Republican, and then I put in the differences here, which I couldn't for the House District 1 get a total or the total votes for the House, because it was an incumbent running unopposed on the Democrat primary, and they're not even going to bother to put the numbers. But it would be nice if they did that. But what I did is I also figured out the difference in highest vote tallies. So I honestly think when you've got this 13,000 mark, okay, things are a little bit fishy. But let's go to the more current one. Okay, came down a bit, but you're within 13,000. I mean, you got 1,000 vote difference here, because they'd have more people come up from the Senate. But the big thing to look at here is, because that was the difference of votes between the Senate versus governor. Okay, because if you look, you've got way more votes for Jeanne Shaheen. Most of them went to her. It was like 94% or something. But voting for Senate than you do for governor, which makes no sense to me, because most people are at least going to check the governor and the Senate box. That's kind of a given. But then you have less here. And I went through and I'm like, okay, so you have this 13,000 difference, and it's 13,000 between the Republicans and the Democrats. And I don't see that you would have exactly that kind of number with different things. Okay, maybe the Senate, but the House like this in District 2, this is why I wish I could see House District 1's numbers. If there was a legitimate way to gauge there where it's an incumbent and most people just go, whatever. But they would still probably check it if they're there to vote anyways. And they're a Democrat. But I think there's some fishy shit going on here, because when you look at the total difference between the two highest votes, which would be the governor here for Republican, you know, for Sununu, most of the people went for. And then you look at the Senate, which most of the people went for Shaheen. There's only a 5,510 vote difference between the two. which means that we're a lot closer than people want to let on here in New Hampshire to being a close situation. It's all a matter of turnout. But I'm thinking the primary was a test, because when you have almost the same numbers, I mean, before those mysterious votes all of a sudden showed up, okay, for the governor race here for Democrat, okay, these were all, if you see, 13,697, 13,800, all right, for the votes and difference between Senate and governor. But that's not necessarily in play because it's the Democrats. But if you look at this, 13,837, 13,711, which are the same numbers here. But that makes you wonder if there was, several thousand ballot box stuffings to the approximate of maybe 13,000 and change, 14, 15,000. Because that just has me wonder, all right? Because Shaheen is crooked as a dog's hind leg. So I don't see how you have, because I mean, look at it. You would think you would have a similar result with the governor, to where you might have more people voting for governor, or close to what you would have for Senate at least. But there's literally a 12,174 vote difference. That makes absolutely no sense. The numbers should be somewhat comparable, or maybe skewed the other way a bit, but they're not. And I thought, I got no proof, but my gut's telling me when you see this difference, and if I could see House District 1, I bet you there's another discrepancy there, okay, which would make me think that some shady shit's going on. But when you only have a difference of 5,510 votes between the highest, vote tallies between Democrat and Republican, New Hampshire is in play, people. But they don't want you to see this. My gut is telling me New Hampshire could say, fuck you, even with the Democrat bullshit. And because the Secretary of State can't get away with half the shit he used to because of the scandal with 2016 that the state swept under the rug, that you really can't see much of. He almost lost his job. I've talked to people in the state the state house and the state senate. I've talked to members of both, and in passing, in my day-to-day, and they've flat out said he's crooked as shit. He almost lost his job. And I'm like, well, why didn't this get any coverage? And they're like, well, the state decided to sweep it under the rug. I'm like, well, then why didn't we just at least get his ass out of there? They're like, we know, we tried to get him out. Each one I talked to. And there's like 4 of them I've talked to. It was 2 from the House, 2 from the Senate. So, I mean, I think the shenanigans were going on. And even with them, you've got this. So I think, like I said, New Hampshire's in play. Because, I mean, another thing you got to look at with this, okay, every single one of Trump's guys that he likes, okay, that he spoke praise of or gave an endorsement to, okay, Chris Sununu won by like 89.8, we'll say 90% of the vote, basically. All right. We get down to here. Corky Messner, okay, beat Don Bolduc, who tried to play the I'm a former general, military, like basically like the vice president character from Head of State, type of shit. He tried to play that one. Oh, I'm a local boy, blah, 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 thinking that would play like we've got old school neocon loving Republican types here. And it didn't. People here like Trump. And if, Trump said, hey, I like this guy. Okay, all right. Well, they voted for Corky. Which I don't know why every time I see Corky Messner, I just think la-da-dee, la-da-oh, no, life goes on. The fucking show with Corky, back in the day when, I was a kid, or at least going into my teenage years, and excuse my awful singing. And I should have warned you I was going to do that because that probably just blew your ears out. Matt Mowers, another one of Trump's recommendations. Okay, 59.5% of the vote in the 1st congressional district. Okay, Matt Mayberry, 26.7. All right, he decimated Matt Mayberry, and Kevin Rondeau. So, I mean, Corky here got 51%, did damn well. Yeah, so basically, New Hampshire is showing that it's in alignment with Trump. And that's funny because, what Boston station was it? I think it was the NBC 10 station. They turned around and was like, it'll be tough for Trump's people to actually win. I mean, Sununu is kind of a given, but those other ones, no, one's a carpetbagger. The other one, I think they said was a carpetbagger too. And they tried to play it down, to disparage, and convince Republican voters to vote for the other guy, because this guy ain't going to have a chance. It was actually pretty funny. But all right, anyway, let's now get into this article here from our favorite soy boy from CNN here, Chris Cillizza. Is Donald Trump starting to make an electoral comeback? Well, considering you've got New Hampshire light blue here, and there's only 5,500 votes on the primary difference between the highest vote tallies, I think New Hampshire should be shown here as in play. And this shit is funny because Maine is kind of split, and they just kind of draw lines through it. It's retarded shit. But yeah, because Nevada and Florida are in play, he's got to play it down. I love this. With 53 days left before voters decide his political fate, there were stirrings. Thursday, that suggests there were political stirrings Thursday that suggest the political freefall President Donald Trump has been in for months has not only ended, but that the Electoral College landscape may be starting to move back in his direction ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. Okay, they literally create a situation that causes people to go, whoa, fuck me. With the people taking to the streets, looting, rioting, and calling it 93% mostly peaceful, protests. Yeah. They caused a swing back, and they're trying to play it down now because they're afraid. I mean, especially here, soy boy Cillizza. The big news came out of Cook Political Report, one of the preeminent political handicapping services in the country, which moved two states, Florida and Nevada, in the president's direction. Florida moved from lean Democrat to toss-up, while Nevada went from likely Democrat to lean Democrat. Now, what I love is funny is Cillizza's going to the Cook Political Report as opposed to the Vegas odd makers who, I don't know, accurately predicted the last election. I'm assuming, with their track record of bookmaking, are pretty good at doing odds and aren't exactly saying the same shit here as Cook Political Report. They're actually saying, yeah, Trump's going to win if memory serves with the most recent thing. I could be wrong on that. So you notice they go to the supposedly preeminent political handicapping service in the country, as opposed to the actual handicappers in Vegas that do this shit and accurately predicted things. Good job, Cillizza. Sleazy little bastard here. But yeah, which moves two states, Florida and Nevada, in the president's direction. More states have moved in his direction. But see, they're focused on these two. It's so funny. Florida moved from lean Democrat to toss-up, while Nevada went from likely Democrat to lean Democrat. Okay. This is funny. They really think people in more rural areas want this shit coming to their town with what's been going on. It's again, head of state when you see the people flooding out of their homes to vote towards the end of the movie. That's what they've created here. And now they're afraid of the backlash from it. Biden's Electoral College lead is narrowed narrowed to 279 to 187 for Trump, wrote Cook's Amy Walter of The Moves. Earlier this summer, Biden held 308 to 187 lead. And I got a feeling that this handicapping place is ideologically driven, and you've got people in there that don't think that money's more important than ideology. Which, when you're making book, you kind of sort of want to keep your ideology and personal beliefs out, okay? I mean, yeah, you get some guys who bet, who look at different things and might have an ideological belief system, but when you're making book, you got to be objective. In early June, The Economist published its own statistical forecasting model for this November's Presidential contest to guide such handicapping. Oh, how convenient. We're going by the Economist's own statistical forecasting model. Huh. You gotta love that. They won't go by the statistical forecasting model of the actual bookmakers in Vegas. The people who've been doing this shit for decades. For many, many decades. Oh, we go with the Economist. A lefty shit rag. Interesting. When they're creating the environment of how you're going to make book on Trump. Since when has the Economist been about bookmaking? Do they have anyone there that knows how to handicap? To set odds? You know, things like that. Gauge like the environment that's going on, because, you know, bookmaking is also like taking into account weather, because if you've got, say, with horses, you got a mutter and it's dry weather, that affects the odds. So, you know, you got to take into account those other things. But no, we're going by the Economist. Anyway, let's see what they had to say for this one with their own little statistical forecasting. Back then, it gave Donald Trump at best a 1 in 5 chance of winning a second term. But by July, as unrest and coronavirus ravaged the nation, his odds had slumped to as low as 1 in 10. There they stayed until the middle of August. Now our models show Mr. Trump has clawed back up a sizable chunk of support. So this is going by the Economist. This is what's funny. Oh my God. You gotta love how dishonest and sleazy Saliza, the soy boy bitch that he is, and CNN are. Oh my Lord, these people are pathetic over there. This is funny. All of which leads us to the question, are we seeing the stirring of an actual Trump comeback? Or is the movement effectively a dead cat bounce rather than a sign of actual increased chance of Trump beating former Vice President Joe Biden on November 3rd? Creepy, sleepy, senile Uncle Joe? Who can't even do like live shit without a teleprompter where it's supposed to be impromptu and it can't be scripted because he just goes off on like a demented like Spurgfest and just talks stupid shit or starts something with someone? Oh my God. I mean, this is funny. They're using the statistical model from The Economist. It's not even an actual bookmaker's statistical model. And the preeminent bookmakers, supposedly, that they are, Cook Political Report, are using The Economist's model. Holy shit, I would love to see this model. I wonder if they've got this model published somewhere. I might have to look for that. Because I got a feeling this thing is rigged. It's coming from The Economist, for Christ's sake. But I love this. You know, how they're trying to play it down here with the fact of an actual Trump comeback, or is it just a dead cat bounce? That question is difficult to answer with any sort of certainty for a few reasons. Oh, well, of course it is. Because CNN don't want to admit that, that they fucked up along with the rest of the legacy media pushing the people taking to the streets supposedly peacefully protesting narrative bullshit. Okay, but anyway, so sort of certainty for reasons. Most notably, that we are 53 days from the election, and we are still in the grips of a pandemic that is projected to kill more than 400,000 Americans by the end of the year. I love this. Him and these other assholes at CNN and the rest of the legacy media said, before we even had 100,000, they said, oh, we'll be lucky, if we do everything perfect, lock down the whole nation, everything. 2 million people will die. Then it was 1 million people will die. There wasn't even 100,000. Now they want to say there's going to be 400,000 in a matter of 53 days, by the end of the year. So a couple months, because, we're in September. So October, November, in 3 months, when we only had 200,000 with the initial impact and a bunch of people with comorbidities and shit dying. I mean, when you look at the actual numbers, 6% of them were actual deaths from this shit. trying to scare Americans with this. Like, oh, well, there's 400,000 deaths. Like, because they expect someone to read this and not vote for Trump. Be like, well, he screwed up. It's going to be 400,000 deaths. When they don't think people are smart enough to know that you had CNN saying 2 million people are going to die if we do everything perfectly. This is such retarded shit. It truly is. Salissa is like the worst kind of soy boy. I love this. And in the middle of a national conversation about race that has sparked protest, peaceful and violent, across the country. Oh, now it's peaceful and violent. Oh, no, I mean, they put peaceful first. Try mostly violent, number one. Number two, national conversation about race. You've got the left saying that, and BLM and Antifa all saying that, how do I put this? That the actual numbers and statistics, the actual facts, are a lie, and that blacks are murdered indiscriminately in the streets well above whites and other nationalities. And the biggest kick in the ass about this is, you have a situation where they try to say police target blacks. You look at the actual numbers, okay? Blacks as a whole make up 13% of the population. Yet they commit over half the crime, especially violent crime in this country. And then they try to say that they're victimized and they're being targeted. I mean, I have nothing against any race, creed, color, religion, or anything like that, okay? But when your particular in-group is, we'll say ethnic in-group or however you want to look at it, is acting a fool, you smack them on the back of the head and go, what the fuck? That actually used to happen in the black community, okay? You used to have, like, Medea-like grandmothers, okay, that members, multi-generations in the family were scared shitless of pissing off. Because they would smack the ever-loving shit out of that person if they ever, one of the people in the family, whoever screwed up, and would have no, like, reservations or qualms about it. And they would knock some fucking sense into them. But you don't have any strong people, okay? And I'm not saying in all black families, but you don't have the strong people you used to have in these families, keeping them together with, like, say, a two-parent household, having a productive member, father who's a productive member of society, who's married to the mother, who isn't in prison for selling drugs or robbing someone or fucking stupid shit like that. You didn't have welfare incentivizing this shit. And you had that strong woman, whether she be an aunt, a grandmother, whatever the case may be, however the relation was, okay, that would keep that family in line. You'd even have, like, strong black, like male figures, like a grandfather or an uncle that did the same exact damn thing. There would be someone in the family that would knock some sense into them and say, you're acting a fool, whoever it was. Maybe if that happened, you wouldn't be seeing 13% of the population committing over half the crime, interacting with police in the middle of a commission of said crime, or trying to be apprehended during said crime, and then acting a fool. Just a thought. I mean, if it was whites acting like that, I would sure as shit call out fucking whites. With what more Native American, American Indian, however you want to look at it, blood that I have than freaking Elizabeth Warren, I can't even say it without laughing, but Pocahontas there, I'd call out them too with what I have. Because I got Micmac on both the U.S. and Canadian side of the border. From my ancestry here. But I mean, I love this. Let's leave out actual facts here. And I love this next line. And with the least predictable or traditional person in the White House in modern American history. Now, I love that, how he chose modern American history, because you know what? A lot of presidents before this, faux, like personable, like have someone there that's being an actor type thing, playing a game, okay, conning the American people, putting on a smile, talking shit out of one side of the mouth that they expect people to buy while, whispering for the government to do other things out the other side. Okay, before that, you actually had presidents that were like Trump, and they tried to hide that fact. Now they can't. So it's in modern American history. Because, let's leave out the fact that Teddy Roosevelt was like way more Trump than Trump. Okay, let's leave out that Ulysses S. Grant was way more Trump than Trump. Okay, let's leave out that how a shit ton of presidents were way more Trump than Trump. Okay, in comparison, Trump is like Trump light. In short, the last 2-ish months before an election are always chaotic and somewhat unpredictable. That goes quadruple for this election. I love how they're setting it up that this idea of chaotic and unpredictable when they're pushing this idea of universal mail-in ballots and shit. How convenient. But simply because we can't say anything definitive doesn't mean there's nothing to see here. I love that. He's trying to play it down like there's nothing to see here, but then he says that. Okay. And what these latest stirrings in the electoral map look like are sort of returning to normalcy in the electorate, as opposed to any major movement in Trump's favor. Oh, so the shift is just things returning to fucking normal. Oh, so that 5,500 vote difference in New Hampshire between the highest vote tallies, which was governor for the Republicans, and Jeanne Shaheen, basically, because she got almost all the vote on the note of the Senate. You're telling me with a 5,500 vote difference between who and what came out, and the fact that the Democrats like to stuff ballot boxes and do really shady shit with, having people sign affidavits saying that they're someone that they're not, and with the voter ID laws allowing that you can get away with that shit. A guy recently busted here who somehow, being a Democrat with a charge, an investigation against him, and not having charges brought against him, thanks to Project Veritas, he did, but he was one of those the people that oversees the elections in his community, and he's got these charges against him. He actually walked into the DMV in drag and tried to get a non-voter a voter ID card, which is like a step lower than a non-driver ID card, so that he could vote twice. And he got busted because he's actually voted multiple fucking times. And this guy's running elections in his town. Yeah, okay. Yeah. With New Hampshire being shady as shit, yeah, I think you've got a serious situation on your hands looking at those numbers. I'm sorry, but you do. This is so funny. Return to normalcy. Think of it this way. The electorate is like a rubber band. The dual summer cries of the death of George Floyd and the mounting death toll in the United States from coronavirus stretched that rubber band heavily in Biden's direction as voters rapidly lost confidence in the president's ability to effectively deal with the pandemic and or direct serious national dialogue about race and policing. Excuse me? No, that's not how things played down. Because people actually saw the fact that this guy was there with a restraining order against him, brought onto him by his victim of alleged rape, and when he tried to take off in her car with the kids in the car, you piece of shit, okay? He deserved to get fucking shot for that. Alone. You get innocent children in the backseat of the car, and he's trying to get in the fucking car, whether it's to get the knife, whether it's to get a weapon, or to take off with those kids in the car. Okay, at that second, he put those children's lives in danger, and he deserved to get fucking shot, you piece of shit. You get the kids in the car, and you're trying to make him out to be some freaking, even though he's alive, to an extent a martyr? You piece of... Oh, you are the worst scumbag on the face of the planet. And you think that actually put things in Biden's favor? Dude, I know you smoke cock, but do you smoke crack or meth too? Because you're high as a fucking kite. Holy shit. This guy's awful. I haven't done an article from him in a while, and it wasn't intentional. But now I'm wishing I kind of didn't. But I saw this and I was like, yeah, I got to go through this. Oh, he's a piece of shit. All that's happened in the last month or so is that the rubber band has returned slightly closer to its normal level of tension. Sure, Saliza. It hasn't begun to be stretched in Trump's direction. Yeah, sure it hasn't. And in fact, it's still more in Biden's favor, although slightly less so than say, 2 months ago. Yeah, okay, Saliza. Sure, you're scared, dude. CNN is scared. Listen to this. I mean, this is clearly, he's talking out his ass. This is propaganda. This is lies and bullshit made to look like it's the truth. Consider that while Cook's ratings changes narrow. Wait. Consider that while Cook's ratings changes narrow. Wow, it could have actually wrote that better. It does work, but it fucking reads like shit. And you're supposed to be like, an editor, right? You're supposed to be like an editor, dude. Consider that while Cook's ratings changes narrows by... Wow. I'm sorry. I don't have a speech impediment. I haven't had a stroke. I'm just trying to read this asshole's writing here. Consider that while Cook's ratings changes narrow Biden's electoral college lead, even with Florida and its 29 electoral votes back in toss-up, Biden has 279 electoral votes in their projections. Yeah, using the Economist's bullshit handicapping fucking formula. What do the Vegas odds say, shitbrick? Oh, that's right. Memory serves. They've got Trump as winning. Holy shit. You don't talk to the Vegas odd makers. You talk to someone who's supposed to be from the preeminent odds makers who's using the Economist's bullshit formula for fucking rigging the odds. Oops, I mean, taking the odds and showing them accurately, right? Mm-hmm. What a sleazy little bitch this dude is. He truly is. And I love this, but Biden has 279 electoral votes in his projections, which is 9 more than he needs to be elected in November. See, they're already trying to play this like this is over. This is like 2016, part D. Because it never truly ended. It was just, they were filming part 2, part D. Now we're here. It's, it's a comedical farce like Hot Shots Part D. It truly is, Part D. Spurgfest Part D. Just throw a D at the end. We can make it funny with this shit. Jesus Christ. This is awful. And that while and he starts a sentence with "and." Jesus Christ, not proper English. And that while wow. Another shitty written start out to a sentence. And that while the Economist's model now gives Trump a better chance of winning than it did in the summer. G. Elliott Morris, a data journalist who wrote the piece about the latest projections, noted this on his Twitter. Okay, so we've got a blue check mark who's a Trump spurg. Okay, yeah, a Trump spurg. I mean, this is funny. They're not even going with the actual odds makers that matter, the ones in Vegas. They're going with someone in a group that's using the Economist's bullshit formula that clearly puts Biden in the lead because it rigs. Accurately allows them to measure things in the favor of him. Okay. So let's see what this blue fucking checkmark little shitbrick had to say. Context is key, though. We give Trump less than half the chance we would have at this point in 16 if we ran the same model. The last 2 weeks post-convention are typically the incumbent's best in the cycle, yet polls move modestly, if all, and POTUS odds are only 3 points better. I love this projection right here. Okay, Biden's didn't move at all. They did not move one bit. They're using the Economist formula, okay, to put... Sorry, sounds like one of my neighbors coming home with their Harley. Hopefully he's quiet. But, so basically, you have the situation here where they're trying to play this like, oh, well, Trump's numbers didn't move. Biden's didn't move at all. They see the fact that they've got and Florida's a toss-up. They're trying to play like Florida's a toss-up, okay, when they're freaking out about how many fucking Latinos and Cubanos, how many Cubans are voting Trump. They're scared shitless by it. The number is ridiculously high. And you've got blue check marks and all these lefties in the legacy media that can't understand. And they're going, well, they're just too stupid. Basically, whether they say it directly or imply it, the message from them is they're just too stupid to realize that they're voting against their own interests. And it's like, you dumb fucks. They hate socialism. They hate Marxism. They hate communism. All right, the Cubans, all right. Some of them got on a fucking 55-gallon drum and floated all the way here, motherfucker. You think someone like that's going to vote for those same types of policies here? And they do. So they're like, oh, Florida's a toss-up. No, they're afraid that Florida is a fuck-me state. So they're trying to play it down. It's so funny. And Trump did have a pickup. The polls went up to 45. And they were way below that because of the bullshit CNN and others in legacy media were pushing. Jesus Christ. These people are pathetic. Liz pathetic. All of CNN. How the hell are they even making money? They should be like, closing shutting the lights off, like closing down the studios and like filing for bankruptcy with this shit. And they leave out the fact that with the polls, people don't necessarily want to tell their true feelings because, people spurg out, and I'm sure these poll takers would spurg out, tonality and attitude and shit like that, so they just don't want to deal with it. But I love that, the POTUS's odds are only 3 points better. This is funny shit. And then there is Biden's lead in national polling has remained steady for months. At the moment, the CNN poll of polls pegs Biden at 51 and Trump at 43. Yeah, and what we can do with these polls from CNN, okay? If we're desperate for toilet paper, we can print them out on our printers and wipe our asses with them because that's about what they're worth. Given the deep polarization in the country, Trump is, according to Gallup, the most polarizing president in American history. I'm sorry. They're forgetting about one president that was way more polarizing. Abraham motherfucking Lincoln, you dumb bitches. He literally caused a country to split and go to civil war. Holy shit. But anyway, so some regression to the mean, electorally speaking, seems somewhat inevitable as election day draws closer. Oh my God. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln, far more polarizing a president. Holy shit. Oh, God. I needed that laugh. That actually, with the way Saliza played this shit, that was funny right there. I don't know why I found it really funny, but I did, because that is some hilarious shit. Okay, you got the president who caused the country to split and go to civil war, and then you got Trump, who the left has been spurging out about. More polarizing. The president who was against the South and the South with its slavery and things like that. Or the president that a bunch of soy boys and militant lesbians and the tank brigade there, the fatties for fatties against fascism or whatever the hell they are, those types. Okay. You had brother against brother. And you've got Spurg against normal society. Which one seems more divisive, not divisive, but more polarizing? The president that caused brother to go against brother, or the president that's got blue-haired and multicolored-haired fucking Spurgs freaking out right now? Think about that. We are not a country at the moment in which a presidential candidate of either party is likely to score a massive victory. I got a feeling Trump's going to have a landslide because they're playing this, and then they've got them saying basically the idea of the legacy media and all that Trump's going to win by a landslide. But then, okay, you're going to have all these mail-in votes come in, and it's going to be creepy, sleepy Uncle Joe winning. So what does it tell you? They're trying to soften us up for the fix here with this shit. Oh, this is so funny. That's not to say that Trump can't win. He absolutely can. But it is to say that he, despite some recent movement in places like Florida and Nevada, and even Pennsylvania in his favor, remains a clear underdog to beat Biden to 270 electoral votes still. Excuse me? This is the same line you fed with him and Hillary Clinton. You idiots. You think you can recycle the same narrative? And people aren't going to notice? Anyway, this video's gone longer than I wanted it to. I mean, I was only planning on initially doing 5 minutes with the stuff regarding the state election. But like I said, I thought that was a little bit shady when you look at it. And you look at the fact that it's got 13,000 votes of difference. It's almost like they stuffed the ballot boxes kind of idea to make the Democrat presence more than what it was, especially when you look at the fact of turnout, when you go by most votes, per if you compare between the two races. I mean, you've literally only got 5,510 votes difference. So like I said, I think New Hampshire's in play. I really got a gut feeling that New Hampshire's going to surprise the legacy media, because they're thinking it's in the bag. They think New Hampshire's in the bag because New Hampshire supposedly went to Hillary Clinton. But part of the reason why I went to Hillary Clinton was all the shady shit that got swept under the rug that the 4 members of New Hampshire's legislature, 2 from the House, 2 from the Senate that I've talked to, that we were talking about. It was because of that shit. They flat out said it. They're like, oh yeah. They're like, we honestly don't believe Hillary won. It's like, the guy's shady as all hell. You go look, you can still find videos on YouTube with the Secretary of State doing really shady shit with ballots. Like the residents here, okay, through their property taxes and that, they paid for a vault to store the paper ballots that go through the optical scan machines and regular paper ballots that people actually fill out, which he's trying to get rid of because he wants to go buy the Diebold type machines and trust their numbers, which, let's see, there was the scandal he had where he let a convicted felon come in to towns like Salem, towns like Salem and Plastow, I believe was one of them, but he went to Salem, Nashua, I believe Manchester, and he would go into the machines in the middle of the elections, this convicted felon who was a Clinton fucking buddy. He would go in and change the memory cards in the middle of, and a Democrat stooge, I should add. He would go in and change the memory cards in the middle of elections. And the Secretary of State's, Clinton associate type person goes, nothing to see there. That ain't going to change the tally. You're literally taking out the device that records the number of votes and putting another one in, and you're saying that ain't going to mess with the numbers? And he thought people would actually buy that shit. And a lot of people that were half asleep or idiots bought it. But yeah. And the things just escalated. And with 2016 and him being, deep in what the Clintons will say, yeah, they punted shit home here. And yeah, basically it was so shady that they fucking just went, oh, fuck me. And it would have called the whole state's integrity of election integrity into question. So yeah, the House and the Senate kind of swept it under the rug. And if they had fired him, like they wanted him out of office, I should say, removed from his position, it would have brought attention to it. So yeah, same crooked bastards in there. I see this shit with the 13,000. I think something shady. But then I look at this number and I go, yeah, New Hampshire's in play. Even if they're fixing the shit. 5,500 votes ain't shit. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm leaving things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.